Why would Carlos post this for his main photo?
What the problem is like that one's a lot better. No,
that one's a lot better. That one's a lot better. That one's a lot better. That's not him
posting it though.
I know, but this PR team, why?
Yeah, he looks like a daywalker. Like he's got like a lot of like fucking freckles.
No, looks like Mr. Bean.
Yeah, no, dude. Okay, like what my biggest gripe is, just like aesthetically for the sport, like back in the day they used to have like cool visuals and pictures and stuff like that for when they started. I don't know if it's hey Miguel, are we recording?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. Back in the day, I don't know. I'm gonna pull up some old videos and I'll show you later. But back in the day, they had some of the coolest opening animations for Formula One for every single different race that they used to go to. You probably remember. Yeah. This was even before like my time watching it, but on Instagram they've been like popping up every single time, and I'm like, these are unreal animations, and some of them are hilarious. Like I was like, what's like? I would be way more intrigued to watch the sport if that was the opening scene, and they would change it for every single race or at least every few races. Kind of like how they change the liveries for certain.
Like McLaren for this race.
Yeah, McLaren for this race.
The stealth.
The stealth color. Which is really kind of lazy to say it's stealth when they just like didn't really put any paint on. They're like, hey, it's just. Well, that's what Williams did before. It's lightweight.
Williams came though in with
the Gulf livery on the Williams is so nice.
Big fan.
I know, because Gulf did the livery with McLaren back a couple of years ago.
In Monaco, and that's when Norris, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Norris, he was on the podium for that race.
Yeah, I mean that was an unreal livery. Like I was.
Yeah. Anything Gulf, any Gulf livery is great.
That's true. Gulf Porsche back in the day.
917.
Yeah. Oh my God, that 917K, that back in the day that won Le Mans, like that was amazing.
I want to go down to the Porsche Experience Center down in LA, and they have some cool stuff there.
I want to go to the Porsche Museum in Germany.
Yeah.
They just did like a video on it recently where they did some renovations to it as well.
Yeah.
And it is they just went through like all the different cars that they have, and the crazy thing is all those cars are drivable.
Yeah.
Like that's and they use them for like test videos, runs, or when they're doing like new production cars.
Well, it's like Audi. They have like their museum, but then they have their secret vault as well, which is just like on a
I know. It's in.
Hoonigan went there, and
it's in Zuffenhausen, I think.
Yeah, and it's just a nondescript building.
It's a warehouse. Yeah, it's totally under wraps.
And it has multiple floors, and you have the rally.
Yeah, they took Ken there, and they let him drive the
Sport Quattro.
The
Group B prototype, the white thing looks like a sperm.
Yeah.
He drove that. Yeah, I remember that. That was like, oh my gosh, because that's again, I'm an Audi guy.
Yeah.
That was like, wow.
That would be a great trip. If we can get enough sponsorships to be like, hey, we're going to go to Germany to go to the Porsche Museum and then the Audi Museum.
Yep.
That would be unreal. I mean, if either one of you guys are listening, we'll be happy to come and take some videos.
I have owned 7 Audis.
I've owned 1 Porsche, so that's all I got.
Just got the mug.
Yeah, and I got the mug, so that's what I'm holding on to at this point.
But, jinx.
Yeah.
But it'd be a very boring podcast if that happened.
Yeah,
just sit here and quiet.
Just sit here in solitude after that.
Oh, that's much like Perez and Max in this past race, sitting there in solitude, not doing too well.
This was going to show that like a car as good as that is good for There's no car that's perfect.
Yeah.
There is a car that you can make perfect for 95% of cases, but there's no perfect car though.
I believe it was in the before the race happened this in Singapore. They asked me, "Oh, how do you suspect your car?" Like they asked Max, "How's your car going to do here? How's your car going to do?" "Oh, I don't know. Sometimes the car is not really built for certain tracks." Then they cut to the statistic that the Red Bull has won in a row 10 of the past street courses.
Yeah. Well, they won. No, the constant statistic that they were talking about was Red Bull's won the last 14 races basically unbroken, and never mind 10 this season, the 4 prior. And Checo won in this, in a very similar car last year as well. So I mean, this was such an anomaly though.
They were saying that the back felt unstable.
Yeah, I agree with that. They said that the car setup was just not where they wanted it to be.
And then there was a couple times in there. I think it was when Norris overtook Verstappen, and then Hamilton was trying to overtake Perez.
Yeah, I mean the traffic there was the other issue as well. I don't think
That
they
was
got the
so
tire.
good though.
I mean,
loved
look,
it.
I
loved
love
it.
Checo, and I'm like again, I don't have a favorite team,
Yeah.
but this was such a refreshing
I
race,
know, it
to
was
be
just-
honest. Like,
Exactly. Again, I had Red Bull merch. I had all that stuff, but it's always exciting, especially when it's Ferrari and it's our boy.
yeah, I mean, it
Um,
kind of like started all the way down from quali though. Like,
Yeah.
it really like the
No,
traffic
quality,
was
first-
backing.
like not even quality. Like there's issues in like practices as well.
That's true. I mean, even if you're looking at FP1, FP2, like there were inklings that the things were gonna go happen, but you can't always judge it because sometimes like they're just running different test plans to see where they're gonna go. So
Exactly.
it's not always
but you can at
indicative.
least see some of the pacing, and you can kind of get an idea as well because this is the first time this circuit has been ran in this configuration. Because
That's true. They did make changes as well. They did take out a turn as well to create a full straightaway.
Mhm.
So that's another thing as well. So
one more passing because that's
Yeah.
what they want to do. Create a spectacle.
and for a track that was not supposed to have a whole lot of passing because
There was a lot of passing.
there was a lot of passing. In
There
this
wasn't
one.
just passing though; it was passing like late break, like diving in, and then there was
That was the only way to do it at that
Oh,
point.
wait.
Otherwise, you'd have to go in and double back. That
Who
was the
did-
only way to do it.
Who did Perez hit?
Perez bumped into Yuki, I believe.
No, it wasn't Yuki because Yuki was out the first.
No, sorry, it wasn't Yuki. It was my goodness.
It's not Lawson.
Uh,
Lawson?
It was Lawson. Yeah, I think it was Lawson.
Yeah. No,
It was Yuki. Dude.
no, it was Albon. And because I remember when that happened, I says Albon can't catch a break. Even the Red Bulls are hitting into him, not just Mercedes this time.
Right.
I thought to myself there, I'm like, Albon
It's not
can't
something
catch a
honestly
break,
like
man.
the Red Bull. I was not really paying attention to what Red Bull was doing this time. You know, it's
Well,
funny because
typically,
like
it's same thing with me. Typically, I'm not paying attention to Red Bull because they're always 1-2.
yeah, but this time though too is even though when they're not one, the ironic thing is they weren't 1-2,
Yeah.
and then they're in the middle or in the back of the
And no one
pack,
paid attention.
and they're still not paying
'Cause
attention to them
it was
because you're
all
like
Charles, Sainz, Hamilton,
Leclerc,
Norris, Leclerc,
yeah,
Russell.
and
That's-
Esteban in the back
Yeah.
there too. You know,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like
dude, when he got out and he had like they put on team radio because I watched the race this morning. I watched it because I didn't watch it right when it was live because that would have been 5 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
God awful like that. But around 7:30, I threw on my phone and I just watched the race in my bed, and I was like, I was relaxing and that, and all of a sudden, right, you okay? And you hear Ocon scream. That scared the piss out of me.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
blood curdling. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, I know.
Like, gee, I feel bad for the guy.
It was really
But I
unexpected
can't
though.
not feel bad for Yuki.
Yuki's having the worst time, dude. I think AlphaTauri right now is like in such an odd place because they have two drivers right now, which they haven't had driving to this level since I want to say back when Seb or Ricardo were driving the tail off the Toro Rossos back in the day, like in extremely competitive form. Because if you really think about it, like
Would you call those AlphaTauris competitive?
no, not the AlphaTauris.
Okay,
I'm just
okay.
saying the drivers are more
Oh,
competitive
yeah.
than like what the car is able to do.
Yep.
Because if they were to have somewhat of a capable car, dude, those AlphaTauris are going to be in like top 6, like
Yeah.
like in they're going to be
that's
considered
exactly it.
top 10, and they're always on the
like
cusp
Yuki,
up.
you're seeing pace Lawson. Like he's considering that's his third Grand Prix.
Third race, dude. It's like that is the only other driver that's been able to perform at that level on the third race.
Hamilton?
No, dude, not even Hamilton. Well, yeah, I guess Hamilton, but then also Verstappen.
Yeah.
To be at that caliber of driving, because even if you were to compare current drivers right now, say Logan Sargent, right, also a
Preseason
rookie.
testing. Yeah. Well, did you hear what George said in the radio?
No, what did
I
he
think,
say?
I think
Logan?
after he says, "How could this happen? What am I, a rookie?" When he hit the wall.
Oh yeah. No, I know that's. I mean, it is a rookie
Yeah.
mistake though, because again, you're
Locked
always
up.
testing it though, and I mean, of course, you saw that with Mazepin back in the day. You saw it with, and obviously the issues that Mick had, dude, the amount of crashes that he had in his rookie year as well.
I remember that
And again, now
Jetta
you
race,
like
yeah.
the fact that in recent times we've had so many rookies come through. Right, we've had now 6 or 8 rookies come through in the past few, like 3-4 seasons,
Yeah.
and now I think we have like a good assessment of what a modern Formula One car, like is with new drivers in it. Because prior, like I said last episode, like whether it was Lewis or any other drivers, they had hours and hours of testing without restriction in Formula One cars.
Yeah.
And those weren't even just for media campaigns. They were in the car just testing the car itself out. So it's a very hard comparison to give, say, Lewis back in the day, right, and him ascending into an amazing rookie year to much of the rookies right now. And the closest comparison you can have is maybe where Verstappen basically started, and much of the rookies that came along the way, right?
Even then, yeah. I mean, for Lawson, it's different though because he was.
But Lawson's been out of it though too. I mean,
yeah,
like,
but he was in super.
He's been super Formula for Japan, which I know has been keeping him sharp.
But also, he was a reserve driver for Red Bull. He did some FP1 testing. He
did. So but there's a big difference though. I want to say is coming in through like the feeder series, going through F3, F2, and then jumping into F1.
Yeah.
Like you have that level of consistency, like that brings you all the way up, and then. You know, that like kind of like say Yuki as an example, or even look like Joe as an example as well, like or even Logan. Like these guys are coming straight out of feeder series, and there's not much of a gap in between, right? And especially when it comes down to like your level of fitness in a Formula One car, and then the level of acuity that you have when you're driving as well. It changes so drastically because again. Like Lawson's been out of like F2 for quite some time now, right? And then even though he jumped over to DTM as well, and then even just driving a super formula car, like they're still so drastically different from say going from like just an F2 to F1 car, right? And then again, he might have been in a sim, and he might have had a couple test runs for sure, but not enough to say, you know, hey, we're just gonna toss you in this thing and just go for it and have that level of acumen and that level of accuracy against. Yuki's been driving amazingly already, and so there's already that bar set as well.
He doesn't have the car.
Right? Yeah, it just doesn't have the car.
He didn't even start Monza, and he didn't even get one lap in this race.
Yeah, so I mean, it's brutal for him not to be able to show his talent. And then going back to his position that might be coming up now is him moving as a reserve driver, which I don't think is the right move at all, considering the performance he's been putting consistently in the past season. Yeah. The way that I just assume is they should keep kind of things the way that they are, move Lawson back into a reserve spot, figure out where Ricciardo is as a driver right now, especially when he comes back, right? Because at this point, Ricciardo's in his career right now, unless he's back in his form like he used to be when he was driving for Red Bull, which is, you know, it's a gamble at this point, right? And again, like Red Bull doesn't like taking gambles whatsoever. They want definitive answers, which is what they do with Verstappen in the car and tailoring the car around him, because that is a definitive answer for him to win consistently all the time. Which is also why you see Perez struggle from going extremely well in the early parts of the season, and this happened last year as well, where the car is kind of fresh. And then as you see the season progress and they tune things more and more in Verstappen's favor in terms of balance and having like a looser back end and, you know, him able to dart things around and, you know, take the car and put it in places where he wants to be. And then you see Perez then struggle with that, essentially speaking. You know what I mean? It's kind of that's how I see things. Yeah.
No. Very insightful.
So, I don't know, those are just my recent observations as well. So, I mean, like, yeah, Ricciardo, obviously, he's one of the oldest drivers on the grid now at this point. He's out, gonna come back with an injury. That's going to put things into delay as well. So, like, at this point, he's going to drive a couple, and I think those are going to be those kind of testing races for them to see whether or not, how long they want to keep into that season, right? Because if he's on old school Ricciardo form like he was when driving in his first year of Red Bull, you know what I mean? And just dive bombing like everybody used to and being really calculated. Then obviously it warrants him to stay. And then again, that puts pressure on Perez to perform even better. Because again, everyone knows Perez can drive. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, 100%.
And like again, when he's clicked on, like there's no one getting past Perez. Again, obviously besides Verstappen, right?
No one can manage tires and no one can get past it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can block a 7-time world champion multiple times over multiple races and then hand your Wonder Boy a championship like that, you can't just toss those accolades, right? Even though like the fact that like, you know, everyone says you're only as good as your last race, everyone still has a bad race no matter who you are, and we saw that with George today as well. Like the level of pressure that he's putting on and just the sheer level of calculation in terms of how to manage his tires all the way through the race. Even though he kind of, I think, slipped when he overheated those tires. Yeah. And I think when he was following Norris's line into that last turn, because Norris clipped that. I don't know if you knew that or not. Like you could see a quick clip, and then I think like George was probably trying to take a slightly wider angle to go through that turn, and then obviously that just spelled,
Yeah, no.
disaster.
I mean, I feel bad. I can't not but feel bad because he was having a great race. Like, all the strategy worked out. Like, when they came in for the virtual safety car, even Ferrari, their strategy, it worked out pretty well. They double stacked.
Yeah.
Ferrari double stacked a pit stop.
I know.
Didn't
I agree.
Pardon my French. Didn't mess up.
Yeah. I agree.
I was like, as I saw that coming, I was like, oh, here comes Sainz. Like, oh, 2.5 second pit stop. Like, nice. Like, oh no, here comes Charles.
It was very tense. It was very tense when they did that.
It's too bad because Charles' pit stop got delayed because traffic in the pit lane.
That really messed him up. The timing of that. 5.9,
because I think
he lost
Hamilton was coming into the
and then Norris was right after as well. So that really put him on the back foot. So it was just unfortunate timing more than anything. Like they couldn't have done anything about that. Like I was looking strategy wise, that was probably the only opportune time for them to take advantage of it while the VSC was out at that point. Because otherwise he would be totally off, like in terms of strategy versus everybody else. He'd be losing those 28 seconds for that pit stop, and he'd be kind of in the no man's land at that point. And I don't think he'd be able to make that recovery that he did. So, and then at that point, going back to strategy as well, the fact that Mercedes put both of their both cars in double stacked as well, like they've done before in the past. That's nothing new. They've been doing that for seasons.
Every time they double stack, something goes wrong.
I mean, there has been cases, obviously, when Russ has been in there, and obviously when Valtteri's been in there, was in there as well. But for the most part, the seasons past, they've been the foremost best double stackers in Formula One by far. But regardless of that, I mean, it was a crazy race. But going back to like the qualifying paces as well, like even with George early on, like he's showing so much promise right now. And it's not like Lewis hasn't slipped up in the past prior. I mean, again, 7-time world champion. There have been multiple examples where he's slipped as well, driver. Right? And it happens to everybody, And I don't blame him. And I think the fact that there's so much pressure on everybody because you have a teammate right behind you.
Well, I think that's why Stroll. I think that's why the pressure's getting to him. Everyone's saying he doesn't deserve to be on the team. He doesn't deserve to be on the team.
I honestly agree with that, but he's been dealing with that since he got into Williams, to be honest.
But I think it is kind of hit another level once now you have Alonso as your teammate. Yeah. And now you're being outshone, outperformed every time.
True.
And now even media saying does he even belong here? Yeah. That's different than when it was Vettel, because Vettel was kind of here's what you should do. And there was yes, Vettel will do better than Stroll will do better. But it's kind of a hand. But I think the pressure's getting to Stroll.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, though, because if Stroll decides to exit within the next year or two, my imagination, it leads me to believe that he'll probably exit by 2026 when the new regulations come in. If that's, if that's the direction he's probably going to want to take. Because at that point, we're going to see a lot of exits and a lot of contract changes.
But I don't think he's going to leave the sport. I think he'll because again, Lawrence's father owns the team. Probably do something on the more or less coaching side, or maybe he'll go to race in endurance.
The Aston Martin does have an endurance racing team, so he might go to do that or something like that for fun. But if Lawrence Stroll does want to win a world championship, he needs world championship winning drivers, and unfortunately it's just Stroll's not there. And I think most you're not going to find anybody else to really have a valid, solid argument to say otherwise, right?
Yeah, especially when we're going against Alonso.
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to Alonso though too. He really slipped up quite a few times during the race. Yeah, his strategy was definitely compromised in a couple ways. I do agree with that. But this is the first time, I mean, obviously this is the lowest placing that he's had all season. He's been in the top 10 every single race besides today. And running at 15th, which is, I mean, for a car that's not a top, it's not the fastest car, obviously, but it's expected to at least be placing in top 7, top 10 most of the time. But for the amount of mistakes that he made, obviously the big one being when he said, he overshot the turn and had to reverse and come back, pull a 3-point turn. But this happened earlier in the race, though, too, when he knew that Perez had to come in for a pit stop anyways because his tires are done. I mean, obviously so were Verstappen's, but there was no point in for him to go in and try to overtake and overcook his tires, give Ocon the gap that he needed to overtake at that point, and then drive all the way through. He basically gave up that spot for really nothing at that point. And then obviously he had that 5-second time penalty as well for going over the pit stop lane as well. Like, you know, this was probably the, I mean, obviously his worst drive of the season. But I'm curious to find out later, you know, when the news kind of comes out as to why he was struggling so much this race. Because it just really seemed like he just wasn't clicking. Like his qualifying pace was fine.
The Aston Martin wasn't clicking with it. I mean, this track just could not suit their car.
I mean, they haven't been like, you know, in terms of street circuits, like it's not like they do terrible overall. You know what I mean? Just looking back at, say, you know, if you're looking at like an equivalent, the closest street circuit being Azerbaijan, maybe, right? He was 4th, so you know. Or even in Saudi, there's also street circuit, 3rd. So it's even Monaco, 2nd, right? So it's not. I don't think it's a street circuit issue at this point. I think it was more of a because I know they struggle around like slow speed.
But we could say the same argument with Red Bull.
I mean Red Bull like
first, but then this track.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't think they just got the setup right for this track. Like I know this is one of those tracks like say.
But
Monaco.
Do you think the setup? Typically, yes, I would say the setup. I think they definitely did get it wrong. But do you think that would derail their whole weekend that drastically?
Well, both drivers were off.
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point,
so I think it's just the car itself.
Yeah, just wasn't able to function. I mean, we'll see Suzuka next weekend.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens though. But there's always an anomaly. Like going back to 2015, I believe, when Mercedes was on the run streak, they had the same issue here as well, right? So sometimes I think there's just a glitch in the matrix sometimes where things just aren't working what they're supposed to be doing. Like this has also been like the hottest race of the year as well. Yeah. So who knows?
31 degrees.
Right, Celsius. 31 degrees and humidity.
Can imagine what it is in the cockpit.
Right. Oh, I mean everybody was sweating, right? I mean
this is the one time out of the year that every single F1 social media they bring up the ice baths.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yep, there's Oscar Piastri in an ice bath. Oh, there's Hulkenberg and Magnussen sharing an ice bath. Oh, I think every team had an ice bath like post.
Oh, probably. They would definitely had to. I mean, like the next hottest races are probably going to be, you know, COTA and Mexico City as well, right? Yeah. So, and even then, those are a lot less humid. You know, they're a lot drier heat. It's just definitely hot, but I don't think as humid as Singapore because that is humid. That's a sauna at that point, right? So, it's going to be interesting to see how they recover from this. I don't know because again, I think even their strategy calls were off as well when they were put on the hard tires. They stayed out on the hards for way too long. Like they should have come in 10 laps earlier 100%. Because they're how much they're sliding around.
100%.
Like by lap 30, because considering the fuel load, that ate into the hard tires so quickly. I'm surprised that they just didn't go for like just jumping onto another harder set right away. You know, I know that they wanted to push for a longer stint, and it kind of worked out for them in like, you know, moving up into the points, at least for Verstappen, right? Yeah. And Checo just sliding in there as well. But like, it was kind of a questionable strategy overall, in my opinion.
But that's what makes it fun. That's what makes these races so much fun when stuff doesn't happen the way it's supposed to be happening. Again, it was nice to see, like, have a different national anthem up on the.
I'm just happy for like overall, like Carlos fucking killed, like just absolutely just killed.
And we've been saying it.
We were talking about it last weekend too. I know we were definitely talking about it last weekend. You know, it's during qualifying. I was watching Esteban Gutierrez, the ex-Formula 1 driver, talking about how Carlos struggled when he first joined Ferrari, and I immediately like disagreed with that statement in my head right away because he was one of the only drivers at that time when there were so many switchovers amongst drivers at that time. You know, you had Checo come in, you had Carlos come in, you had Ricardo coming to McLaren at the time as well. You had so many driver changeovers at the time, and the driver that excelled the most by far, obviously, in my opinion, was Carlos at the time. because he'd I think out of anybody he had moved through the most teams, and like we were talking about before, I think he was acclimated to finding inserting himself into the team most quickly, and then I think he was, in terms of being at where Leclerc is at, again obviously he does have a jump start advantage because he's just been there for so much longer.
Yeah.
But I think he just has been racing phenomenally well leading up to it.
Definitely.
Because again, it's one of those things where teams will focus on who they think is going to be outperforming, and obviously they don't get the same level of attention. But the acuity that like Carlos brought in from his experience, right? Yeah. We saw that what he did at McLaren as well, and obviously his short stint at Renault wasn't obviously super great when he was up there, comparing against numbers with his teammates in terms of statistics. But incremental growth, I think he's been by far the best driver in terms of that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And then even going back to how Leclerc was looking, I thought it was really interesting though too, how Ferrari, once they realized the position that they were in, they told Leclerc to start holding back. If you got that radio call, when Leclerc got a call from his engineer, hold back 3 seconds and push the pack back to give Carlos as much room as possible. I thought that was a big shift from Ferrari, considering how political that team is and how much they usually stick to their guns.
I think as soon as they had that taste of a victory, they're like, okay, we gotta keep this going.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like there's
all
right, we have it's there. We can taste it. So I think as soon as they got a whiff of that, they're like, all right, Charles, take him for the team.
No, I think they also had this conversation back at the paddock, probably back in Monza as well, because how I guess spicy things got between Carlos and Leclerc. Considering how much they were fighting right till the end and almost compromising their podium finish as well. I think there was definitely conversations happening at that time to eliminate any sort of doubt as to what's going to be going on, because obviously like the gentleman's rule is if you're on pole or whatever your qualifying position is higher, that you're supposed to be getting priority. Like the most prominent time the rules like that were violated was, say, with Weber and Seb back in the day, or if you want to go a little further back was with Senna and Prost, when you had certain gentlemen's agreement about who's going to be qualifying next, who's going to be the lead car next.
What was that call? It was so weird. It was for team orders, and they literally blatantly came on and says, he is faster than you. That was literally the things, like, just to let him pass.
Oh, I mean they've done that multiple times though.
But it was just so blatant. I'm like, oh my goodness.
They've done that. Oh, they've done that with. I mean, that is a normal team call versus really with anybody. I think that's just a blanket statement saying.
But I think it was to a part where I forget what happened. It was something. It was really. I don't think it really happened much at that time though.
Yeah. Are you talking about multi-21?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, at that point, again, there's multiple gentlemen's agreements between drivers, and that happens and stuff as well. But at this point, when you haven't won a race in such a long time, at that point you have to respect it. If you're ahead of the...
And the fact that it's Carlos's first win for Ferrari. That's he's now in the books.
We were talking about how, he's ascending it into it, and now he's stamped onto there. Yeah. And I think this would be great. This is a thought that I had about the future for Ferrari, is they could be a next championship winning team if now that they have Fred Vasseur at the helm, because the last time Ferrari was winning championships, there was another Frenchman at the time as well, Jean Todt, who was running Ferrari at that time, right? Yep. The only thing that they're missing is a German to basically engineer the car, which was Ross Braun at the time.
Yes,
right? And now they have another foreign national, like Schumacher was as a German running Ferrari, or driving for Ferrari. Now they have Sainz at the helm. I think Leclerc is still a fantastic driver, and there's no doubt about that he can win championships. Mm-hmm. It's just, how does he handle under pressure in those specific environments, like in the first season when they changed the regulations, right? And now that the fact that I'm curious to see how Leclerc's confidence will be running up to it. Will he be very charged?
I was about to say, is he going to be hot-headed?
Yeah, I don't know if he will be charged now, or if he's going to be in a place of self-doubt moving forward.
I don't think it's be self-doubt.
You don't think so?
No. Considering how many things Leclerc has come into and how many struggles he's had every time he was at Monaco when like things were just never going his way. I don't think.
But challenged by a teammate in this way, because when he was driving with Seb, right? This is his first teammate since Seb, right? And Seb was not at peak form as he was prior, right? Because I think Seb's last time when he had his real championship winning run or attempted championship winning run back in 2017 against Lewis. Yep. I think that was peak Seb, and at that point after that, the dreams kind of started dying, and that's when they moved. Kimi retired from, not retired, but moved down from Alpha, and they brought Leclerc back up. I don't think Seb was performing at the same level that he had prior. And again, it was very much a changing of the guard in Ferrari at that point.
Yeah.
But now you have two young drivers, and now two young contentious drivers who could be butting heads in the future. I don't think they have that relationship where it might facilitate that. But now when you have...
but here's the issue. I remember there was a recording or a quote from... Because it was Sainz's birthday not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
And they asked, "Oh, what did Charles get you for your birthday?" And he says, "Oh, we're not like that."
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I've seen like promo videos in the past, and they seem like they're having a good time. But again, they're always PR videos. Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, going back to it's funny you brought that up last episode as well, talking about the relationship between Norris and Sainz. And you know what? It was almost funny. I was thinking about this. What would it be like? Like, what would this race be like if there was another driver in P2 at that time? And would the same thing have had happened?
Like if Hamilton was in P2 or whatever?
No, not the Mercedes, not George or not Hamilton. Okay. I'm talking about if there was Alonso there or if there was...
What would Sainz have done?
What would Sainz have done, but what would any other driver in P2 would have done? And would they have been driving at the same level, if that kind of makes sense? In terms of coordination, in terms of effort, in terms of knowing that, like, hey,
I think we're coordination, in this together. Effort, yes. But I think Sainz would not have made it that easy.
I agree.
I think if Alonso was in P2, again, Alonso attacks. Not saying that Norris doesn't, but Norris didn't have the pace to overtake that Ferrari at that time.
No, I don't even think about that, but keeping them at a distance enough to use them strategically, because what he did was he offered, like, they obviously were like symbiotic in that relationship during the race, like they're helping each other. Obviously, one's blocking him off and the other one's helping him tow.
But that's when it comes to Carlando.
Yeah, the Carlando relationship. Yeah.
That if it was Alonso, no, because Alonso would have been like, "I'm gonna come and get you. I'm gonna get you." But Norris like, "I'm gonna come and get you, but you're helping me because we're buddies."
Yeah.
So again, because
you saw this.
I'm sure maybe even Sainz maybe even would have gone slower to be a bit wider to back up them even further, so they get a chance for Mercedes to overtake Aston Martin. Again, there's so many different ways where it could have happened. But I think if it was anyone else in second place, I think Sainz would have put a little bit more pace because he was going slow. He wasn't rushing.
No, he knew. Well, the thing is, he had to manage those tires right to the end, though, because those tires were shot by the end of it. Because you saw what Leclerc had, because they were at the same tires, and obviously Leclerc didn't have the pace to run those through, and they buzzed past him like no problem at all.
Oh yeah.
So,
I think Sainz had more pace. I just think he was using...
Oh, he did. He was on form. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Obviously, we saw that from qualifying right to the get-go.
Just looking at, like, Norris behind him, he was also very comfortable. He was just doing his thing. Mercedes, they were...
When they switched on those tires, it reminded, and especially the black Mercedes running that quickly through the field, when we were talking about the W11, dude.
Oh, buddy.
That's what it exactly... I was getting W11 flashbacks. I'm like, these guys are running through like they used to, like dark prancing horses.
I know, it was so good to watch. I was like, oh, man. This is like the good old days. But it was just like... It was exciting.
I was on the edge of my seat the entire time.
If I wasn't laying in my bed watching the race, I'd be on the edge of my seat too. But
I couldn't believe what was happening. I was expecting another, I knew statistically just from races past there were going to be safety cars regardless, and I knew, and even if it weren't crashes, which there were, I knew there was going to be malfunctions with the cars themselves as well, because that heat murdered those cars. Whether it was Esteban, or whether it was Yuki, it was just bound to happen.
Not even that, just the heat get to the drivers, like.
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe
no, I
that's
agree.
also part of what happened to George. He got something. He
That
was pushing
frustration.
so hard. And
I don't think it was the heat that got to
But
George.
how
I
do you
think it was
know
the
what-
pressure that got to George. I think the heat probably got to Sargent, if anything, because he's the
Yeah.
newest to that. George has run those run laps like that
yeah, but
before.
with that being said, though, if you are put yourself in George's shoes.
Yeah.
They're big shoes. But think of it this way: he's pacing with a 7-time world champion right on his ass. It's 31 degrees ambient temperature.
Yeah.
It's probably close to 50 degrees Celsius in
Probably.
the cockpit. Your judgment, your mind is probably on the freaking, on shoestrings trying to keep focus.
True.
So I think just if he saw Norris clip that barrier on that going through that left corner,
Yeah, it was left through.
that could have thrown him off.
You know what I think actually, I agree with that now that I actually think about it though too, and this is kind of going back to target fixating, like I think Ricardo did when I think it was Piastri that had originally crashed.
Yep.
First, I think it was Piastri that crashed at Zandvoort.
Yes.
Right. So when that happened, when you see someone clip and then your focus deviates,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what happened to George as well. There's all that pressure in like the heat itself. 7-time world champion, the possibility of winning and another
Another podium for Mercedes.
Yeah, another podium for Mercedes. I think when
It's
that
perfect
first clip
storm.
happened, he saw that clip, and I think that just pulled him into it
Yeah.
as well. Because when I ride a motorcycle, the first thing is do not target fixate, because your eyes will follow
You're
wherever
gonna
you go. Right, so it's exactly the same thing. I think when he saw that clip, I think he was just following that line.
Yeah.
Because obviously, whoever's in front of you is probably running possibly a faster line, right? So
There's a reason why they're ahead of you.
yeah, exactly. So I think that as soon as that happened, I think he was just following along, and I think he followed along too much.
Yep.
And also, mind you, they were running so fast for the last 20 laps, right? Those medium tires were hot, like they could cook eggs. Yeah, cook eggs on those tires at that point.
Nuts.
Right, and again, they're mediums though too, so they're like burning out even faster.
Yeah.
So
It gives me I hate the heat. I can't deal with the heat. Like I'm 23 degrees. I'm comfortable.
yeah.
Again, I have you can't see it, but I have a fan over here blowing on me.
Yeah, but you're also from like the East Coast, and you're also white. I mean, for me,
Touche.
right?
Touche.
I'm long.
But I can't
yeah.
imagine like when it's 32 degrees out here in Vancouver. I'm like, oh my god! Like, get the AC on. I can't imagine stepping into a car
Yeah,
like that, wearing your Nomex, wearing your spray suit, helmet, balaclava, headphones in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
And then you have Sergeant who says, "I don't drink water when I race." Like,
Is that what he said?
yeah. He's like, I don't do that. Like,
No, I probably just drink Bud Light.
not anymore.
But maybe not anymore. No, it was, yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal race. I mean, I realized that though too, is the way that the race was running this time around was so different from races prior, in the terms that every team, the way that they were all stacked up, there was no gap more than 5 to 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? Up until...
They had to, the final laps with the top 4.
Oh, yeah,
like,
seconds
what,
apart, half a second.
Yeah, like they were saying,
the
like
way
there's
through.
like 1.7 seconds between the first, like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
but I mean,
was
throughout the entire,
exciting.
even the midfield though, they're
Yeah.
all stacked up as well. I think the only really gap came through was after Leclerc. Then you had Ocon, I think, as well. I think he was about 15 seconds behind, or
But then
Gasly.
Then he
Yeah,
on.
as unfortunate as was at that point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the times as they were kind of splitting down, it was...
was it Hamilton who got fastest lap? Yeah.
Yeah, Hamilton cleared that fastest lap. But I mean, of course, he had obviously
Yeah.
like one, arguably like the
That virtual
second,
safety car
second or
saved
third
him.
fastest car, right?
Yep.
And probably
Fresher
as a-
tires.
Fresher, I mean, the freshest tire, and obviously his experience. He's been
Yeah.
around that multiple times, right? And so,
I think he's the most winningest driver around there. I think he's like 5.
dude, he has the most wins on probably
Yeah.
of most
Yeah.
most racetracks,
Touche.
right? I
Not
think
Zandvoort.
sorry.
Not Zandvoort.
No, yeah, maybe not Zandvoort, but I think there's only a few. I think Seb and Lewis have probably the most records on most racetracks in terms of wins. So I mean it's been an absolutely nuts race. Like I'm just going through notes here. Could you like even imagine though saying like earlier in the season say a McLaren's going to be ahead of a Red Bull?
No.
Unbelievable.
No, you could have told me that yesterday. I mean, last week.
Yeah.
Last race.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe, like, nah, you silly goose. But I'm like, no. Like, I'm again, it would have been cool.
But that's a huge improvement, though. In the last, few races, though.
But we've been saying it before. I mean, like, it was Mika Hakkinen said, like, McLaren are going to be at the front.
Yeah.
He said that, like, beginning of the season. Like, the way they're progressing, they're going to be at the front.
I think they're moving forward. Going back to heritage teams, though, too, it was pretty disappointing. And I'm not even disappointing. I was actually not expecting Williams, as great as the car looked that weekend, to do well.
Yeah, they're not good for city circuits.
No, they don't have this. They don't have this like slow speed corners that they can take advantage of.
I had both Sargent and Albon on my fantasy team.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was gonna say, you're not going very far with
and
that.
I had to pick the lesser of the evils, because I got to pick one driver, like my driver of the day that I choose, and I get double points for that driver. I had to pick Gasly.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. Yeah. I would say that is another hammer that is hitting the nail on his coffin.
Because he's racing for his next contract.
At this point, he is, and the pressure's really on. I feel really unfortunate for his situation. I mean,
the issue is he can afford. I don't think Williams can afford to get rid of him.
You don't think?
He's a paying driver.
I mean, yeah, he does bring a lot of American money to that.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm sure.
There was people saying like Zhou's not going to get a seat, but Zhou just signed again with Sauber.
For the next little bit, he will, but I don't. He's not guaranteed that seat.
After 2026.
Possibly, but was it 1 year renewal for that contract? I believe,
yeah.
Right. I don't think he's going to be able to keep that seat. I think Valtteri's going to be out as well, possibly. I think
Valtteri is going to be pretty happy to retire soon.
Oh yeah, no, he's chilling.
He's biking. He's got his watch company. He's got his gin company. He's like his lovely. I don't think she's a fiance. I think it's his girlfriend still. Like they're biking, doing all the stuff they want to do.
Competitive racing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Dressed as like the Duff Man or something from like Simpsons.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no, it's true.
The mullet mustache man.
Yeah, he really changed his persona after he left Mercedes. He kind of was just like retired from being a Mercedes driver, and now he's kind of on vacation, kind of like Kimi, who's just like, I don't really care what's going on. I'm just gonna run and do what I'm gonna do.
As soon as Kimi left Ferrari.
I mean, great rebrand. Valtteri had a great rebrand, I gotta say. Everyone just liked him.
But Valtteri always kind of had that likable kind of thing, because he was always sitting there drinking his fucking espresso and.
No, dude, I gotta say, I gotta disagree with that.
I liked him.
You might have liked him, but the general, assumption that I got.
I'm boring though, so fair.
I mean, like with Valtteri, at least the last couple seasons they had with Mercedes, dude, the amount of trash. That was handed his way.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt bad, and he looked demoralized as a driver at that point. Even in his last season, he's kind of like,
especially when
I'm just out here,
Well, that last race at what was it? Not the last race, but one of the races when Hamilton had COVID and Russell came in to drive Mercedes.
Oh, the Secure Grand Prix.
I remember when Russell passed Valtteri. Oh no.
No, that was kind of the beginning of the end.
That's the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end for him at that point, and the following season as well, right? When Verstappen's car was on top of Hamilton's at was it Monza, right? Out of I think turn 1, turn 2. At that point, when the classic, he looks back and he's like, right. I mean, at that point, he was checked out. At that point, as a driver, So and he's had a fantastic career, but I think he's definitely. I think, like you said, he's going to move on to greener pasture pretty soon. Yeah. There's so much. There are so many changes that are going to be happening.
He'll start doing some rally stuff. He'll do other things.
I agree. I don't think his race career is going to be like ending entirely or anything.
I think it's just competitive top
edge.
That's like. Again, I'm sure he'll do more like grassroots stuff, more stuff that makes him happy, opposed to just going for the paycheck. Because I think that's more like what Valtteri's doing now. It's like he's doing things that he wants to do.
Yeah, like I said, the complete rebrand. Yeah. Right,
like
people just fall for following
him posing naked in a stream in Finland.
Right.
With Paul taking those photos, and like this.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I love how he gave
No, dude, he
Hamilton.
dresses like an Aussie bogan. Have you
Yeah,
noticed that? Right?
yeah,
He's got the mullet
yeah.
up
His
the back,
girlfriend's from Australia.
drinking VBs, you know.
Some baby long neck.
Yeah.
But you know, his girlfriend, she's from Australia, so I think that's definitely
Oh yeah,
poured
of
off
course.
on him.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
I agree
life.
with that. Right? You know, you were gonna see him wearing like a bentang,
Oh, yeah.
like tee or something.
Yeah,
like
and then
that
he had
later.
his helmet with the mullet on it and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I love that for him. Because when he was at Mercedes, I don't think he had a special designed helmet for any race. But like
No.
that's like
Not
that
yeah,
kind of-
nothing in terms of like
Comedic
real
value.
character to the
Yeah.
helmet or anything
like
like that.
Lando
but-
with his basketball, his beach ball, and
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
And,
I mean, a lot of younger drivers I know do that, and Lewis has always.
I
Had
did
his
I
shtick
did
as well.
like Lando's helmet this race.
It was
The glitter bomb.
it was pretty cool.
It was kind of nice.
I agree with that.
But a lot of drivers do the glitter for the night races. But
Oh, because everything pops because the
Yeah.
lights are on, right?
I
So
think
everything
I
looks
thought
super
that
cool.
helmet with that car, it looks so good.
Yeah,
It looks so good chasing
I
that Ferrari, that McLaren. I'm like, that looks amazing.
no, I agree.
That again, it is just like the stealth carbon fiber.
Yeah.
It looks so cool. I'm like that car.
Honestly, night races in general look cooler
Yeah.
as it is. It honestly looks more video game esque. Like everything looks a little bit brighter. Everything has a little bit more contrast to it. You know, it looks really cool too.
I'm curious how the Vegas Grand Prix is going to be.
I'm
I
not
can't,
actually.
I can't afford to go.
Well, neither of us can. I mean, unless we get a sponsorship. But like, I mean, it'd be great if we could. But
Yeah.
in my opinion, though, too, I don't. After what happened in Miami, and after what happened, after what's going to happen in Vegas, I'm
mean,
not excited because there's going to be so much.
Hey, but you can play the devil's advocate, Jeddah.
Sorry.
Jeddah. That's a pretty good race.
No, I'm not even talking about terms of like it being a night race or anything like that. I'm just talking about the entire fanfare and the entire Hollywood
It's a circus.
I mean, Formula One is a circus that travels anyways. But I'm talking about all the extra stuff that they have, like the terrible performances.
Oh my god!
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just everything's a parade.
So you can't
Everything's
really-
run as like basically they turn what a Formula One race is into a giant Super Bowl show.
I can guarantee you, there's gonna be some sort of cameo or like performance of The Hangover.
It's exactly. There's gonna be
Zach
something
Galifianakis
so.
will
There's
come
gonna be
out.
something so
Bradley
ridiculous. They're gonna have the Can
Mac Ty-
girls
Mike-
out.
Mac Tyson.
You
Mike
know,
Tyson.
they're gonna have like a Hollywood hologram of Elvis or something
Yeah.
like that doing a performance.
Mike, I can guarantee you, Mike Tyson's gonna be there.
I wouldn't mind if Mike was there. If Mike had the flag in the very end, I would be pretty happy. I'm not gonna lie. You can't go wrong with Mike. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that'd be
But
kinda fun.
again, like you said, all that extra fanfare, all that show shot, like it's not what Formula One is,
No.
right? And the drivers hate it, you know, and a
Yeah.
lot of the original fans hated that
Oh,
too.
I remember, what was it? It was at Coda, and they had like, the cheesiest walkouts. It was like,
brutal.
It was like they tried to do like the NASCAR walkouts where they have like CO2, and then they walk out between the cheerleading.
Nobody
girls.
likes that.
Like,
Honestly,
the
nobody
the drivers
likes it.
come out and they're like, "Let's go." I think it was
The
Max.
drivers thinks
And he was like, "What is going on?"
every driver thinks it's a waste of time because
Yeah.
they don't do that. Like you go to like a sports event in Europe, like everybody just
Oh,
walks out.
just-
You go to a rugby game.
No.
You go to a football game
Not
out in
even
Europe.
that. Not even just that. You go to Le Mans.
Yeah.
The most pantomime thing that they have are the
This is the drivers' parade where they just take them around.
no, not even that. Like they have like a helicopter that drops down three French commandos,
Oh yeah.
and they have the flag, and they bring it to the person to
Yeah.
do that. Besides that, they have the jets that fly over with the French colors.
The jets are
But they
always
don't-
cool,
But they don't,
I
but
want
they don't
jets at
have
all.
like Bradley Cooper
Yeah.
trying to sing
Have,
ABBA.
have you seen that? Have you seen that clip of DJ Khaled like
Oh my
with the wheel gun?
No.
With the wheel
Oh,
gun?
no.
Dude, I'm gonna put up a clip on the screen later. That is one of the most heinous things I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
bring celebrities to the onto the racetrack
so
as they always do. You know, and have Martin
Yeah.
Brundle roast some people. Everybody loves
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? That's totally cool.
Well, I remember
to bring people in.
Was it the Miami Grand Prix where Jack Nicholson walked up? No, not Jack Nicholson. What's the name of that actor? He was in the movie Wall Street Never Sleeps
Oh,
with Shia LaBeouf.
you're talking about. You're thinking about Kirk Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, sorry. Yeah, Michael Douglas. Kirk's dad. It's Michael
Yeah,
Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, yeah.
Him when he ran over to Brundle.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you're amazing. You're the voice of this whole sport." Like,
yeah.
Like, I love.
Well, that's a guy who actually loves it.
Yeah,
That's a guy.
Those are great celebrities to have.
Yeah.
But then you have, what was it, Cardi B? When they're like,
I don't even know. Megan Thee Stallion, I think, or something like that. Right? Or you had Carla Delevingne recently or something like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't mind that. That's always really funny because when you watch people who aren't supposed to be there and then, Martin comes in and just roasts the shit out of them.
Did you see the clip? I think it was Will Buxton. They were doing like the after, the post-race show last.
Oh, and he smacks the guy
with the microphone.
Honestly, I don't mind. Like,
it's so funny.
I'm generally a pacifist.
Yeah.
But a little bit of violence is always hilarious.
Also, did you see the pre-race when they were doing the grid walk? Well, Brundle was doing his thing.
Pre-race grid walk. Yeah.
He was talking to Piastri.
I missed that.
So he was talking to Piastri. He's like about he was asking him a question, and then halfway through Piastri answering, he's like, "Oh, come on!" And then Piastri's like,
"What just happened?"
He's like, and he tweeted out like he'd say at like Martin Brundle like, "So we're gonna finish this interview in Japan, yeah?" Just like because he was so funny. I'm like, oh, I love it when drivers can be like that because again, Brundle, he's good, but he's just always looking for the next person to talk to.
It's fun. I like him on the track.
That's
He's really funny. I like him just roasting people all the time. I love a good roast. I love just bringing.
When I'm trying to talk to someone and they don't listen, and I'm talking and I'm saying something, and then I look behind me and they're not listening. Like, all right, well, fuck me then, right?
Yeah.
All right. So he's got the same vibe. He's trying to talk to him. He's like, all right, not good enough for me, and then keeps on walking.
Yeah,
that's always fun. But then you have when he walks up to the old drivers like Jackie Stewart or someone. Jackie just gives his.
Oh, sense. Speaking of old people in Formula One, you heard about what Helmut was saying about Checo, right?
I don't know if we want to bring it up. We don't want to be Red Bull bashing. But yeah,
no, we're not Red Bull bashing. We're just bashing old white Austrians.
No, we don't even facts. Karma.
Karma. I mean, look, they're just doing what they've always done, which is be,
Karma. But did you see what Horner said?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, Red Bull didn't release a statement because technically Helmut Marko isn't part of Red Bull Racing. He's part of Red Bull, whatever it is. But then people were like, that's a blatant lie because they went on the website and says, director of this Red Bull Racing, Helmut Marko.
Oh, yeah, he's director of driver development of Red Bull Racing. No, I know, which is what I assume is what Seb will be if he doesn't go over to Audi. That's just my assumption.
I think Seb's done with Red Bull.
He just did the test recently in Nürburgring.
Yeah, that was PR, and that's because he brought out his car to do it.
No, I know he did. That's the case though. But there was recent talk. If you watched that short interview with Martin and Seb about him possibly making another. I don't say a race. He could make another racing entrance, because he was talking about again his heroes had all come back out of retirement shortly after, And again, that's my assumption that he might come back with Audi.
Kimi.
Right. Yeah, everybody came back. Everybody came back. Dude, Niki Lauda came back and won a world championship 8 years later after he left. Schumacher came back, Alonso came back, Kimi came back. So the case goes, if you're a multiple-time world champion, you're probably going to come back. That's just kind of how it goes, to be honest. And unless you're brought back because the opportunity opens up, but out of your own will to come out of retirement, it's a totally different thing. Not losing your seat and coming back, but hey, I'm going to be done with racing and come back. I think it's totally two different things, right? With Helmut, I was like, those things were definitely out of line. That is sure. There's obviously there's no room for racist remarks and stuff like that, especially so blatantly. It was.
Now, what do you say? I didn't mean it like that. I'm like, then what did you mean it like?
Yeah, but what are you gonna expect? What are you gonna expect?
Yeah.
When was the last time an old white Austrian was racist? 1939.
Oh, actually, let me hit record real quick. That's good. Nah, it's been recorded.
Bro.
I would have gone to bed. I would have left.
Dude.
World War II references.
But you know, to be honest, it was good to see at least there was other driver support as well in regards to that as well. At least Lewis was speaking out about it as well. Max did as Max answered that he always does, which is it's expected. It's not. I wouldn't see him going out of his way to be saying anything like that. Not to say like that he's like Max is racist, but it's like it's one of those things where it's where like what Horner did as well is like it's deflect. It's like it's the integrity of the team as well. Like you're not going to be just diving on with everybody else in terms of that. You have to make the most politically stable answer that doesn't negatively affect, of course, the publicity of the team as well. And then obviously it's just damage control at that point, right? So that's kind of expected. But again, at least there's always Lewis to come out and champion some, at least I'd say some of the important things in Formula One. The funny thing is though too.
Well, that was like Seb though, right? Like Seb, like he was always the one that came out and said these things that are important. Because I'm sure if like someone asked Seb that question about what Helmut said about Perez, Seb would have said something.
Oh yeah, no, I mean
Seb and Lewis, those are like the two that you can get like pretty much guarantee that they're
relatively outspoken. Yeah. You know what I found really funny though too? Remember Races 1? Races 1? What happened to that? They just gave up. There's like, you know what?
I'm pretty sure the FIA got rid of it because you can't do that anymore.
No more political statements at all, right? Yeah, I know it's one of those things. That
no more jewelry, no more political statements.
Lewis does not care about the latter.
Neither.
Or the first one.
Neither of them.
Yeah.
He's no. Like, no. I'm gonna keep my jewelry where I have it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's at that point, drivers can do whatever they want to do in that aspect in terms of what they think about in terms of their safety. Obviously within the confines of the cockpit at that point.
And if that's not going to inhibit them getting taken out, but I highly doubt an earring's going to inhibit.
No. I mean, the biggest fear is like whatever jewelry is going to be melting onto their skin if they do crash, like Grosjean did back in a couple years ago, right?
I feel as though drivers are not buying cheap.
No, but I mean,
like if you look at a titanium like stud in his ear, I don't think that's necessarily going to melt.
No, I know.
Gold.
But that's true. That's true.
They live in Monaco for a reason.
Yeah,
well, some do.
I think most do, to be honest, considering how much tax they have to spend.
Gasly wouldn't do it, and Ocon wouldn't do it because they're French and they're France, so they can't really go there and get a tax break.
Yeah.
So.
No, it'll be really interesting to see how things go along. I mean, going back to how things are going to be turning around over the next few seasons and how the drivers are going to be switching up as well, because a lot of contracts are going to be up. I know, like, obviously, George and Lewis are still going to be at Mercedes for the next couple of years for sure. Right?
I think, heavens. Sorry. It is 10:30 p.m. here on the west coast of Canada. But yeah, I think, because they're going to be at Mercedes until the regulations change. So I think.
I mean, George is staying all the way through. That's no doubt about that. I mean, with Checo seat again is under contention again, depending on his performance by the end of the year and the year after that as well, because his contract is up after that. And again, there's always been talks to that as well. Like he said himself, like there are possibly other options or whatnot.
Yep.
I don't think it'll be the end of Checo's Formula One career for sure. And I don't think he will. I think he'll exit Red Bull if he does. I don't think he's going to be relegated down to an AlphaTauri.
No, he won't.
It's just not going to be. It's not going to be the place for him to be, and I don't think Red Bull would want to keep him there anyways. No. It's just. I don't think it would work with the way things are going.
For some reason, it seems like you can go up from AlphaTauri to Red Bull, but if you've been at Red Bull for a couple of seasons and you don't get relegated back down to AlphaTauri.
Yeah. No,
at that point, you're.
Well, at that point, they're rushing in your talent, right? So because they have so much depth with their drivers, right?
But then again, my argument kind of falls on top of itself.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a special case though too, right? So he's kind of a bit of an anomaly, but there's always going to be outliers and stuff like that, right?
But I guess he went to Renault and then he went to McLaren. Now he's back, not necessarily from Red Bull back down AlphaTauri.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And then, what was really surprising though to this race, I thought was. Are
you talking about the Haas's?
The Haas being up there was another like
Yeah, well, and K-Mag was in Q3, no?
Yeah, no, I mean,
Called
dude, he
by
made it to
seven.
the points this
Yeah.
race, right? So, I mean, it was unexpected, welcomed. I'm sure the team
Yeah.
loved that result to get into the
Untersteiner is
points.
very happy.
Yeah, he is. Well, you know what he's not going to be very happy is the entrance of Andretti Cadillac possibly coming through.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to put like that American
Yeah.
team under a lot of pressure though, because Cadillac
We'll see.
already has their LMDH program that they've been working on for a
Yeah.
very long time, right? So they have at least a lot more technical prowess as well, because obviously they're running GT cars as well with their
Yeah.
Corvettes. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to pull that through. It's just if they're going to be making a full entrance themselves, or they're going to be purchasing another team that's going to be exiting.
What if they purchase Haas?
That could be a possibility. I mean, to be honest, it's like they have made a bit of improvement,
Yeah.
not a whole lot. I mean, Williams has made a massive jump compared to where they used to be, considering they were all bankrupt and to be bought out by Dollarton Capital. So, and now they're on really. I mean, I think they're doing extremely well. I think Albon's performance has been consistently just getting better and better for what the car was able to do.
I also want to buy a pair of Albon's new shoes.
New shoes?
They released some shoes.
What are they? $8,000?
I don't know the pricing, but they're just nice shoes. Yeah, he released a commercial with him and his, because you know Albon, he's a big animal guy.
Yeah,
He has
that's true.
his Albon Pets on Instagram.
Yeah.
They always have like, you know, they post their cats, Stan, they have Horsey, they have like all these different cats. They're quite cool. And they did like a commercial with him and his cats and his pets, just like talking about like a clothing line he wants to come out with. So I think it's AA23. That's like the brand.
Yeah.
You know, Alex Albon, number 23.
Number 23. I mean, that's like
But-
every brand, every driver
Yeah.
brand's like, you know, just like that.
LH44. Then you have Danny Ricciardo, Enchanté.
Yeah.
I want to buy some of that stuff.
That stuff was really good. I'm not gonna lie, though, I was pretty disappointed by the quality of the clothing, though.
Yeah.
Because last episode I wore one of his shirts,
Yeah.
right? And like the design's cool, but the quality of the merch is pretty, you know.
So
But you know what? To be honest, that's the case with most merch. Is
Yeah.
you're buying it for like the fact that it is a merch and you're out there to support whoever.
That's why like there's a couple of brands around here like they actually make really nice quality stuff in Vancouver. Again like Park Ferrari, he makes incredible stuff. Like his quality of his shirts are really good. There's another couple of them. There's it's this guy from the United States, and he makes a lot of like Porsche stuff, and this is like more like boutique kind of clothing brands. They're so cool. Dipedry. So I don't know. Really, I'll send you the link to it.
Okay, cool.
But like both their stuff, it's so nice, and because like Park Ferme is more like racing Formula One, and then the Dipedry or whatever. Again, I'll send you it. It's more like lifestyle. So like,
Dope. I'm down.
What is it? What did they say? Like he's like sure, like a Porsche 911 is a lot faster than a divorce attorney and a lot cheaper than one too.
Oh, I
Stuff
know
like
which ones
that.
you're talking about.
Stuff
Old
like-
school Porsche ads
Yeah.
that have like that are really funny, and they just probably like screen print them on the shirts and stuff like that.
The old Jeff Swart stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you have like period credit again. Like I can go into a full full sidebar with all this different stuff for that. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff. I need to buy some more like automotive swag.
Yeah, no, I it's definitely on my list of things to do as well. They always are, unfortunately.
So
as it
you want a
is.
Mercedes hat? No, $80 right there.
Even vintage stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Vintage stuff still is very expensive as well.
Especially when you can't get it from Ukraine anymore.
Right? I know, that's all true. I mean, I'm sure I could find them.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could find them and yeah, you know, figure that out. But I'm just thinking back to possible headlines of, or at least speculations of Norris joining Red Bull.
No.
You don't think that's going to happen?
Norris even said like he's a McLaren.
Through and through, yeah.
Like that's it.
I know, but it's just always interesting hearing like the what would you call it?
The rumor mill.
Yeah, the classic
like,
rumor mill.
Again, like the rumor mill, like I think I can't remember if Norris said it, but I do kind of vaguely recall Norris saying like I'm going to be I want to be McLaren his whole career, because he started there. He's helping build that team, right? We've seen where they were to where they are now.
True.
Like that's, I'm sure to him.
But things change though. I mean, you don't see that many drivers though like hold on to their team for that long though. I'm trying to think of other drivers. Like most of them, even Seb capped out after like 6 seasons.
Mercedes.
I guess with Lewis, yeah. I mean, Lewis was probably the only exception. Probably
technically, he'd never really like he was in technicality. You know, he was McLaren Mercedes. Now he's Mercedes.
Yeah.
But again, I'm trying to think of the team. What was Webber?
Red Bull before, like I mean, he was Red Bull originally.
Yeah.
Or then the
was he
prior
Williams before? No.
with Webber.
Mark Webber.
Mark.
And Coulthard, he was Red Bull as well.
Well, he was Red Bull, but then he was with McLaren prior with Mika back in the day. Right. So
yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was with Williams. I mean, he started with Minardi and Jaguar,
Yeah.
which originally was, Jaguar was turned into Red Bull after they were bought out. But yeah, no, he was with Williams, and then it finished up with Red Bull. I mean, he had about 6 years. I mean, that's a decent amount of time. So.
And then that's when Vettel came in, and then Danny Ricciardo came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember those days.
The good old days.
When the cars sounded good.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a crazy race, I gotta say. That is...
I enjoyed it.
Unbelievable.
It was probably one of the races I actually enjoyed this year. And then there were a lot of good races, but it was just fun seeing different.
Yeah.
It was just... Change is nice. Like, I don't know, and I'm happy for Carlos. I'm happy for Lando. I'm happy for Lewis. Like, seeing them all up there, it was great.
Have not felt that energized by a race in so long. I mean, the season's been like cool, but it hasn't been amazing. Obviously,
we've seen history being made, but I mean, sometimes I want to see different.
Yeah, speaking as well though too, you know that recent comment that Toto made about Max's statistical win and dominance of 10 wins in a row. Ironically, coming from him, from a team that's been consistently winning multiple times, almost. I would say, I'm trying to find the right word for it, but not giving Max the credit that he kind of deserves for those 10 races, even though Lewis would be under the same circumstance as well as for the amount of races that he's won, but obviously for the cars that he's been given over those seasons as well, right? Like, I'd not like to diminish either driver, but like it kind of goes to show like that like F1 statistics are like so skewed. So skewed, like they're so contextual. Like you cannot, it's not like basketball or football or anything like that. It's not rushing passes. It's not the amount of like kicks or goals that you've made in like soccer, football, right? Or even like baseball statistics. Because those are so individualistic. Like your performance as a driver is so tied to obviously, like in other sports or teams as well. But even just down to simple statistics as well. Often you can maybe just compare your teammate as well, but even sometimes your teammate is just so shit that you look amazing as well, right? Or your car is so terrible that it skews your results as well. Because again, if you think about, say, Seb's career in the beginning, you're like, oh my god, this is the most amazing driver ever. And then obviously the amount of races that he had with Ferrari, it definitely changes that as well, right? And not to take away, but again, Seb's amazing career as a driver. But then again, if you were to just put that with Lewis's as well, Lewis had such an amazing car for such a long time, and then all of a sudden you think, Lewis has been the greatest driver of all time. Arguably, definitely one of the top drivers of all time as well.
I mean,
right?
statistically, he is.
Yeah, right? Statistically, right? That's always the problem.
Race wins, championships, and all that. Statistically, yes, he is. And that's what Vettel even said there. Like, there's been no driver like Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. But again, like, there's also never been someone to win 10 races in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's as you mentioned, it's skewed, but they're their own thing.
Right.
Again, that's freaking Vettel coming in and being the voice for reason again.
As it always is.
He's not even on the paddock. He's just talking with Brundle. It's just it. It's funny.
No, I agree with that.
Ugh.